Hey, welcome everybody. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. Okay, so let's get that one put up. Okay. Looks like I haven't prepped the show this morning properly. Okay. All right. So.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Talking Niagara.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you.
With Dave
Thank
Wheeler
you, Dave.
and that other guy.
Thank you for filling in for me. Right. Okay. So welcome. Yeah, absolutely welcome. Okay. So Ford says he's open to lifting the Ontario US alcohol ban, but he's got to have a fair trade deal.
Here we go, Dougie. Of all the things, now Dougie comes up in this show, may come up in this show another time because there's another article which includes Dougie there, maybe a couple. Now Dougie has had the Conservative Party has had a transgression. We'll get into that later, but for now, Doug, as much as the guy frustrates me with the Greek space and all kinds of other things, and is, and it's sort of rubbing elbows with the capitalist swine, doing dodgy things here and there. But he is facing off against the Trump administration when it comes to the tariff thing. And years ago, when Trump first got in, Doug thought he was the best thing he's ever seen. But that quickly changed when the tariffs and aggressive trade policies were focused at Canada. I guess he thought that Trump was going to be sort of a little bit more ordinary conservative and have a little bit of sense, but he didn't. I think he thought originally that tariff talk and trade talk was going to be directed more towards China and other real abusers, not a friend, somebody who was cooperating and going along with a deal. So Dougie's being one of the real lions facing off against the tariff in the tariff wars we're having right now. But so basically what he said, look, the LCBO right here in Ontario is one of the biggest markets, the biggest buyers of booze anywhere in the world. And because it hasn't been buying U.S. Kentucky, and Rick says, Yahoo, a buck of beer. Yeah, Doug. Yeah, promises made, promises unkept.
That's the one unkept promise that I think everybody in Ontario is going to remember.
He didn't face consequences for that. I don't understand why. Anyway, everybody knew he was lying anyway. So, but I think everybody thought it was a joke, and at least I did.
No, I always thought it was a joke.
But
as well.
Anyway, the LCBO is a huge buyer of alcohol, and since it's cut out the Kentucky bourbon and the California wines, it's hurt the. It's taken a while, but it's hurting the American producers, and they're beginning to. Democrats and Republicans are chiming off and trying to convince Ontario to reverse course. Doug says, yeah, we will, as soon as we get a free trade, a fair trade deal, so that our auto, lumber, agriculture, everything else is treated fairly. And coming up in a few days is going to be, I think on the 19th, is going to be the massive 50% tariff that they're going to put on just about everything, anything they can. And this, of course, they're using the 1930, 96-year-old Smoot-Hawley era rule that's never been used before against Canada. I don't know if they're going to use it against other countries. They could, I guess. But we have, for instance, one of the big issues is aluminum, because it's we have a 50% tariff on aluminum, whereas Britain only has a 25% tariff on their aluminum. They don't produce a whole lot, but
no, not certainly not as much as Canada does, because there's British aluminum is nowhere near as it's a very small manufacturer of aluminium.
Yeah, but they just brought that up there as a thing. How come we're paying 50 and they're paying 25? And basically, and as I've said before, you can't trust the guy. If for any reason you put a commercial on TV, if he's offended by it, he's gonna punch your tariffs up.
Yeah,
the guy is an unhinged cannon. He wants to hit people with the big tariff stick all the time, or anything else he can do. And his best friend.
Yeah. As of yesterday, of course, Mark Carney's top trade emissaries remained in Washington trying to sort out a deal. And, Doug Ford has signaled that he's willing to cooperate to get an agreement that would avoid the latest threats of tariffs that will take place, as you said, August 19th. So we are... so that's
Canadian.
That's basically next Wednesday.
Canadians are galvanizing, though, according to some of the stuff I've seen on YouTube, that 62% of Canadians want to fight back. If we're going to get tariffs, we want to fight back with tariffs. Probably targeted tariffs, because we don't have the strength or to make a major difference, but we could target certain areas, particularly swing states and things like that. We could target places that could go either Democrat or Republican, particularly with an election coming up. Our other strategy is just to wait till the midterms, and that's what Doug has said too. Maybe we just wait till the midterms and remind all the Americans that a tariff on us is a tax on you. Yeah. Every time you tariff a Canadian, you put a tax on. Now and he comes up with this figure of $1,100 that most American taxpayers or consumers have paid because of tariffs. So they're getting more back from their income tax, but they're paying more for day-to-day things. Yeah. So the average person has not made out any better.
That equation rarely ever, we're gonna take money, we're gonna reduce your income tax, but we're going to increase the sales tax, right? That equation almost never comes out to anybody's benefit.
Well, the problem with the tariffs is the person who makes $50,000 a year has to pay the same amount of tariff that a guy that makes $1 million a year. And so the guy that makes $1 million a year, the tariffs aren't such a problem for him. But when you get down to $50,000, $60,000, the average income, the average family, now tariffs hurt.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that if you're talking about a $10 product, the tariffs, 25% tariff is quite a lot of money in comparison to a $10 product. It increases that product quite a bit.
Well, there was a fellow on NPR. Yeah, they was talking about how it affected him. There are X amount of a company that make a certain thing, but the one particular one he wanted was the individual item that was built in Canada, not the States, and so he had to buy it, but they had to put a 17% increase
in price,
on the item he wanted.
Yeah. So instead of it being $1, it's $1.17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he says add that all up everywhere you go, then So the tariffs are a tax that they have a hard time getting that through to people. They say, we're going to put a tariff on this person, tariff on that. And it sounds as if the country that was getting the tariff put on them are the ones that are paying the tariff. It isn't.
It isn't.
It's increasing. Yeah. And it also as an excuse. The tariffs were supposed to protect American industry and so on. It doesn't really do that. Certain targeted tariffs may do that. China, it definitely cheats all the time. So if you want to have targeted tariffs against China, yeah, that's the way to go. But you're not going to start making T-shirts and running shoes in the United States anymore. Let's face it. You know. So anyway, Dougie, as confusing figure as he is, he stood up to the U.S. administration many times, and this time he's saying, "Yeah, you want us to sell your booze? Well, cut us a fair deal, and we'll sell your booze again. But until then, don't bug me."
Until then, don't bug me. Yeah, it's about the shape of it, right? Although actually, Dougie will bug everybody because that's the way Dougie is, right?
Yeah, I have real mixed feelings with the guy. Like his environmental record, like his promises. Oh well, I won't touch the green space. Then he hands it over right away to developers, who then use it to speculate, which makes him look really bad. And then he's got to go through his office and start chopping heads, and it turns that one of his people were super corrupt and in on the land speculations. Then and then he's got to go back on himself, saying, first of all, he says, I'm not going to touch the green space. Well, now I'm going to sell the green space. He sells some of the green space. Those people don't develop it. They just speculate on the land and make a huge pile of money. And then he's got to turn around and say, oh, well, I got to go back to my original. I'm not going to develop the green space like that anymore. So I don't know. And I don't know what his message is for the regions and the government. He's going to impose a little sort of fiefdom where one of his boys is in control, having the veto power. They're going to appoint the chairman of the regions. I'm not so sure that's a great idea either.
No.
But when he's fighting U.S. tariffs, I like it. And when he took Crown Royal and he spilt it on the ground, you want to take our factory, not a factory, this was a packaging company, I think it was. Oh, okay, Crown Royal, you're gonna get rid of 200 jobs. Well, and then he takes the bottle and he pours it on the ground and he makes Crown Royal look real bad. They did come to some kind of arrangement, but yeah, I'm good with that. You want to take jobs out of here and then take them somewhere else because no, you got to pay for that.
Yeah. So he's a mixed bag, really, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So sometimes I'm really in his corner, especially when he's duking it out. When he's duking it out, cutting off U.S. booze and all that, fighting. At least he's fighting, not rolling over like so many people want us to roll over and die. Oh yes, Big Daddy. Oh yes. What do you want? Bow down like Europe.
What I'm not a fan of is his introduction of omnibus bills. Omnibus bills generally are plagued with a lot of legal difficulties. It's not in 2 or 3 years after the omnibus bill has been put in, but it's the 10 years after that suddenly you find there's problems in how.
So explain omnibus for our listeners there.
Basically, what an omnibus bill is, it's you have, like, I think Bill 60 was the one that was done this year, that changes a whole heap of laws. So it might change the Residential Tenancies Act, the Municipal Act, the Building Code Act, the Fire Code Act. And basically one section is changing about 3 or 4 acts to bring it in line with the modern thinking. The trouble is, what happens with omnibus bills is their effect isn't really felt for about 10 years. And then all of a sudden people go, well, that was a bad move because the court's making contrary decisions based upon the impact of the omnibus bill.
Well, that's a common tactic. They use it in the United States. Doesn't matter what party. They put a lot of things that are that don't normally want to float, but they'll put something in for the veterans in the bill itself. So they make a bill. They know that a lot of it's not going to be popular with the average person, but the person who votes for it. So if you go up to your congressman in the States and say, why did you vote for all this? He says, well, that bill included a lot of benefits for the veterans. So I had to eat the bad part just so we can get this stuff for the veterans. So what they do is they take something that they know it's not going to be popular and salt it with some other provisions. They include things that people will support. Yeah. And one of the favorites is veterans. Oh, well, no, this bill also gave a lot of veterans more money, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I voted for it,
Yeah. And as Rick basically says, ask the question, what's hidden in the bill? Yeah.
That's basically, and that's, I don't like that at all either, because you really have to, I don't know, that's what the opposition is there for, though.
To the pick it up.
Wants to dig into that and say, hey, what about this? What about that? And make it very clear.
All right. Moving on, Preston Manning is to chair a virtual assembly ahead of Alberta's referendum. So he's going to be dealing with a 2-day virtual assembly next month ahead of the October referendum on whether there should be a referendum to separate.
That whole thing just frustrates me to no end. Year after year after year, anytime I look at what's going on, I think though the West is not being treated well by the rest of us, particularly here in the East. I don't think the average person, but the government's definitely. The Trudeau government was a disaster when it comes to Western relationship.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. Now you have a guy that's got a lot more sense in control. You know what I mean? So that'll offset it. Anyway, if Trudeau had got back in, we might lose Alberta. But Preston Manning's coming to the front, and so I'll say, hurrah to him. He was a political force some years ago.
Yeah, he was
90s, I think 90s, basically.
Yeah. He was former leader of the Reform Party, and he's going to chair this 2-day event. It's a virtual assembly, so it's going to be to address various issues of concern in the lead up to the October 19th vote. So the assembly will tackle what organisers call dissatisfactions in Alberta and much of Western Canada with functioning of Canadian federalism and the growing conviction amongst increasing numbers of citizens that the status quo is unacceptable. So that's the aim of this assembly in September.
I agree with him. I'm not even an Albertan, right? As I've said before, I just was frustrated, particularly with the last government under Trudeau. They're just annoying. I was annoyed for Albertans basically every time the Trudeau opened his mouth when it comes to concerns about the Western provinces. You don't want to lose the Western provinces. Those are a huge, big part of our future. You want the resolve, and the Western folk are pretty rough and ready to go. You know what I mean? You don't want to lose that. You don't want to lose that that attitude that, like, Ontario is old, Quebec is old, but the West is new. You know what I mean? And that's going to be your future. They got massive resources, everything, and definitely we should exploit them to the hilt and help them in every way we can. Now, one of the things, like, the Albertans just just hated Ontario completely. But some years ago, they had a really bad drought or some other problem. I can't remember what it was. They couldn't produce enough hay for their cattle. So Ontario farmers all got together and started sending train load after train load of hay out west. They just did it, and that kind of cooled things off a bit, because the Albertans could see what a person-to-person relationship we may have with Ontario and the East. But I think as far as the Albertans and Saskatchewans, those two, if they look east, look at the average person, and you might want to even look farther east, because the maritime provinces haven't got it all that good, But anyway, we should appease the Albertans as best we can, because, the whole thing is stupid. We should have treated them that badly in the first place.
Yeah,
my point.
Yeah, absolutely. We should never have been. We should have been dealing with Alberta as, in fact, actually, as you said about Trudeau stabbing them in the back is probably the worst thing, because, we have to do green, at the expense of oil has got to be a nightmare. Yes, there's going green, but you've got to deal with the reality today and the going green in the future.
Yeah, and that's exactly what, whether or not you like Danielle Smith, she said that too. She said the thresholds for greening up production of oil is unrealistic.
Yeah.
Very much unrealistic. We want to move that time frame from 2035 to 2050. Otherwise, it's not attainable. And the only way in which we can attain those environmental thresholds is to reduce production. And what is the point of that?
Yeah.
But Carney comes along and he sees, oh, wait a minute, we got lots of oil here. We should be selling it everywhere we can. Let's build a few pipelines. Imagine if the Trudeau government says, oh, let's build a few pipelines. The environmentalists will jump out of and they wouldn't do anything. But Carney comes along and sees, oh, oil, that means money. Let's build pipelines.
Yeah. And the pipeline issue has been going on ever since I've been in Canada. So, I'm surprised. It's a no-brainer to build the pipeline. Most conservation groups believe that pipelines are better than shipping oil by road or by boat or by train, because there's ever-present dangers in that. Even if there isn't the crash on the highway, there's always the danger of a crash, a rail crash, or a shipping crash, or anything like that.
Well, anyway, pipelines have their own issues, but we see that the plan for the new pipeline goes over top of Lake Superior, because Michigan and Wisconsin are complaining. I think it's Michigan is complaining about our pipeline going through Michigan. And so we got to get rid of it anyway. It's getting old, so they're going to go over top of Lake Superior. But the main thing here is, like, hats off to Preston Manning. Try to keep the country together. Try to fix some of the things we've done. They're a producer. They're a plus country. They're a plus. Transfer payments go out of Alberta. They don't come into Alberta. But once upon a time they might. And Albertans should know that Ontario's being the one that supplied everyone else for many years with transfer payments, including the West, I believe.
Well, the thing about the transfer payments is that they are kind of, I think they're in the current era. A lot of people don't like the entire concept of transfer payments, right?
There's nothing you can do about it if you want to keep the country together.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of thought about it.
It's a thing called share, and Ontario used to be the province that did the transfer payments.
Yeah.
Quebec has never have. It's always been a sinkhole for transfer payments. But I don't know. Anyhow, that's that. What else we got?
Yeah, I'm just catching up on the comments here. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, Rick, because as far as I can see, Alberta's got the price of property and everything is massive out in Alberta. But anyway, okay, so moving on to our next story, we are looking at. Okay, so you put this thing about 44 dead in an overcrowded ferry capsizes on Lake Kariba in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, it's actually the death toll's gone up to 46 now. So there's a Lake Kariba in Zimbabwe, and I was reading there's 46 people capsized in a ferry there. You know, typical. You know, they didn't have all the safety things. They had life jackets, but the people didn't know how to use them. They couldn't hand them out. They got into a problem with a big wave, and of course the ferry was overcrowded, over capacity. Typical. But the reason why I posted it there is just to kind of remind us that there is another world out there. Yeah. You know, there is another world out there, and the fact also, the reason why I put it there is I was at Lake Kariba back in '99, and we had a big disaster there too. We had rented a lodge, and it burnt down in a massive fire, and we lost most of the stuff we had. And if we had gone, it was a good thing it happened when it did, because if it happened a little later, we would have been killed in our beds. We were just lucky to escape.
Well, anyway. Again, every time you hear something like this about a ferry disaster, it basically means, especially an overcrowded ferry, you know, there are usually safety precautions there for a reason, of course.
Yes, and you just get a reminder that these. I've been to the area, right, and the roads are bad and whatever. We talk about the roads being built here during election time, right, because the city's now doing a whole lot of road work. Yeah. It is found out through its surveys that the people want better roads. It's at the top of their list, so they're going to do all kinds of road work now before the election. You know, so that's just an old tip. They do that in other countries. Like they have what is called election roads. So they build a road that just falls apart a few months after the election. So the roads in and around Lake Kariba aren't reliable. So they have to use these old ferries to get from place to place. So they come into the city of Kariba, do whatever they need. And then all these old fishermen and farmers and stuff that are going back to their villages and stuff like that. And come on, how come they're not protected? Where is the government? It's just, the thing is, Emerson Mnangagwa, who is the prime minister of Zimbabwe. I mean, he said some nice words and all that, but the main thing is, how come you had life jackets, and how come that people didn't know how to use them, and how come they weren't handed out fast enough when this disaster happened and all that?
Yeah,
it's just a reminder of what the rest of the world faces day by day, and the average of the poor slob out there is just trying to get back to his fishing village, and half his family drowns.
Yeah, and the whole point about that is that the Titanic disaster 110 years ago,
114 years ago.
114 years ago. Thank you. Taught us the fact that we need to have enough lifeboats on any ship to cover all the number of people that are there, but overcrowding rules are in place to stop dangers. Because we don't know. What you don't know about this is whether, because it was overcrowded, it capsized, or
it was look. The people on the little ferry were little. They had 110 people on. Their capacity was around 80, so they had 110 people on it, and they could see the situation that was happening in the lake. High winds were pushing up big waves. And the passengers tried to tell the captain, hey, turn back. We're not going to make it through that. But he steamed ahead anyway, had a schedule to meet, put everybody at risk, and that's exactly what happened. So yeah. I don't know. We find the same kind of things happening here, but to a lesser degree. And anyway, it's just a reminder that there's another world out there.
You should always think safety first. You know? Yeah, absolutely. Always think safety first. And
plus, that lake is full of crocodiles. Oh my God! Like maybe not in that particular area, but you go out at Lake Kariba at night and you look, and all you see is these red eyes all over the lake. That's the crocodiles coming up, and you hear the grunt, grunt, grunt of the hippos. In fact, they'll keep you awake, smashing around the underbrush there. So if and of course they got the big tiger fish there too, but they won't eat you, but they're good game fish anyway. So that's it basically. We can move on from there, but I just want to remind people, and having been at Lake Kariba and having my own disaster there with our lodge burning down, it just kind of reminded me of things. So I put it here so I could bore everybody with my own stories.
Can you imagine MECP and Hamilton Health saying they do not know what is in the soot and poses no health risk? The fact that you're raising the question tells me that that's exactly what they have said, Mike. You don't raise questions like that unless it's for real. Yeah.
Whoa, man. Okay, I didn't see that article, but yeah. So yeah, definitely it doesn't sound good at all. Oh yeah, well yeah, there's soot. Sure, there's soot. You know, but it's I don't know what it is, but it's not harmful. Don't worry about it.
Okay, Ontario was moved to make room for more casinos in the Niagara region. OOG reached a deal with Niagara Entertainment Inc., Mohegan, to strip away its regional monopoly, and current venues are unchanged, but they're looking at new venues. We had this story about a year ago, didn't we? In a slightly different form.
Well, it's not the first time, because the Ford government is trying, had been talking about adding lots of more casinos. It's just a replay of that, but also they actually have a kind of a process now, a plan, like Operation Niagara. I don't know if that's a good way of saying it, but yeah, they're just wanting to make Niagara a bigger tourist spot than it has been. And that, of course, will include more casinos. Their plans, although are controversial, they haven't talked to the people of Niagara, of course, and the businesses here. And I'm sure that the casinos that exist already here do not want that competition outright. So I don't know what kind of feasibility studies they've made. Now they're talking about more casinos, some gigantic behemoth of a Ferris wheel, which I think I don't know, that wouldn't go too well with Hoko, but they're going to build a bigger one on Clifton Hill there, so we might get satisfaction there for the government.
Doug's vision is to double the number of visitors we get each year.
Yes, Dougie boy. Dougie, Dougie. Well, he wants to. Now, I don't know. Like, he says stuff that, like, he's right out of his imagination. Sometimes I think, because he was talking about tunneling. Remember tunneling a highway, a tunnel? Yeah. Getting kind of like a big Becky boring machine and just cutting underneath Toronto so that they could have another big highway down there. The very idea of that and the massive expense of that and the logistics is insane. I would be for it if he could give me any kind of reason that it wouldn't be that expensive, or if there wasn't any better solution. But now but then he leaves it, just to sort of float in the air. And then he comes up with, let's make Niagara a much bigger tourist area than it is right now. Let's double the size of it. Let's throw a few more casinos in there and get a gigantic Ferris wheel. I think we'd be way, way welcome to more investment in our tourist industry here, and to expand it, as there'd be more jobs for people, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not so sure of the plan.
No, I the best thing with the Ferris wheel, I think the best idea we've come up with by yet, but with the Ferris wheel, is we have a Ferris wheel train, don't we? The Ferris wheel runs between here and Toronto, and just keeps running up and down the line. Ferris wheel to Niagara. Now,
Mike has posted something there. It's called fly ash. I'm very familiar with fly ash. That's what we got in the steel mill. The soot and the stuff that comes off of steel mills. So they usually know what that is. So I don't know why, if that's the source of the fly ash, they pretty much know what it is. Sorry to go back to a different.
Well, we haven't. It's a story. It's a story we haven't covered.
Yeah. No, this says Rick says reason to keep the people working since auto and steel is gone. Yep. But it would expand anyway, even if we were able to retrieve some of the auto and steel. How does Niagara Falls expand? Its sort of foundational industry is tourism. How then do you go after that? Where do you do after that? You can't attract, like semiconductor producers. You can't attract any big industry of any kind. So what do? You expand the industry you have.
Yeah.
Now in Niagara, we've got tourism. We've got a very large agribusiness too in the Niagara region. But what else can we attract here? And I guess the Ford government is saying just make the tourist industry bigger. But I'm not so sure of the plan, if it's a good plan or not.
I don't actually ever agree that tourism is a fickle industry, right? If you and I live in the same street, the biggest problem with tourism is you and I live in the same street. You worked in the factory next to my one, and you got laid off this week. I was going to go on a big holiday this year.
It's called Destination Niagara. So the plan basically is called Destination Niagara. I knew there was a plan.
Yeah. But that's the problem with tourism, is because you get laid off because you're my friend and you work in the factory next to mine, and they've shut down. I'm very cautious about jobs. You're not going on holiday this year because you've just lost your job. I'm not going on holiday this year because Dave's just lost his job. Right? So tourism is a fickle industry. Whether people only come when they've got, when they're flush with money.
Well, it says here that OLG is set to launch procurement process later this year to identify potential new casino operators. NDP member, of course, Wayne Gates says, and I read all this before, I was just reminding myself of it, that Wayne Gates said that he had heard a lot of local opposition to a plan under the Ford's Destination Niagara to add second Ferris wheel, etc. So basically, they seem to be coming up with a plan, but they didn't consult the Niagarans too well, I don't think.
Yeah.
When they came up with the Ferris wheel thing, that you're going to put a gigantic Ferris wheel over there, it would be spectacular looking, but people didn't want it. Mm-hmm. The people of Niagara, and we are the people of Niagara Falls. If we don't want it, don't try to stuff it down our throat.
Yeah.
Dougie.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And this is one of these, okay. So, and again, there's better things we can do than invest, than try to double up our tourism. tourism will grow and shrink as it does. It's other industry you need to encourage, not tourism.
Yeah, I don't know, but you have tourism, and if you have a feasibility study that says you could expand it, bring in more casinos, and that will work, instead of having casino compete with casinos, so two casinos don't make enough to float. You see what I'm saying? We have two casinos in town already.
Yeah,
I don't ever think they're up to capacity. Do you? I'm not so
No.
sure. And
No.
and you want to put more? But first of all, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? More gamblers or more casinos? You know, if you build it, will they come?
Mm.
We have two casinos; they can't fill them up yet. So you figure we're going to build more to make it more appealing for gamblers? I don't think so. Like I'm all for expanding whatever will bring jobs to the community, as long as it's done right, and we're not left with some white elephant of a casino that nobody goes to.
Yeah.
You know, like the whole city runs on two different levels. It runs, if you like, I was watching the city hall council meeting yesterday, try to catch up on it, and so I'm watching 20 minutes here, 15 minutes there, whatever. And you've got this town that runs itself pretty much typical of any ordinary Ontario city, and then you've got this overlay of this tourist industry on top of it, which provides us with casino money, we're grateful for that. But if you were to listen to ordinary council meeting, you wouldn't really see that so much of our prosperity is based on gambling.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Children's mental health belongs in the conversation, says Pathstone.
Yeah, that was in that council meeting too. Was
yes,
and the agenda as well that Paul and I covered on Monday. So what Pathstone wants to do is have an immediate presence for mental health for children, where children are likely to go, like the community center in Willoughby, Chippewa, because that's going to be a viable place, community center. There's going to be a lot of kids going there a lot of times, so they want to put a functioning area there for Pathstones for kids' mental health right there at the community center. Now, there's a little bit of a problem there. The idea itself was welcomed by all the counselors, but how are they going to accommodate that? That's a bit of a problem, because I think it says in the article they need 500 square meters. That's quite a hunk of the community center.
That is, yeah.
So I looked at that and I wondered, is that a misprint?
See, 500 square foot. 500 square foot is a room, right? It is a living room size. It's a large room.
It's a studio. It's a studio apartment.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
Yeah. 500 square meters is a lot of space.
Yeah.
Have they got the measurement right?
I don't know. I was wondering about that. But anyway, they have to find ways in which to accommodate them. It's a good idea on the surface, and the counselors were generally approving of it. But they just want to know the feasibility. We come back to that word again. Is it doable? Yeah. I don't know. They've said that the children's client, like they give Pathstone gives free counseling and free treatment of the mentally ill children, or that have mental issues, health issues. Their clientele has grown a great deal in recent years. So they may just need the space. I know they're well funded, because we used to give to Pathstone ourselves our Qantas did. Then we looked into it. Paston gets a lot of money from government, a lot of money from other charities. So we decided to put ours to other areas where they don't get as much. And you know, so because we could see that they were well taken care of, basically. They could always use more, of course, but there are other areas in town that need more. So anyway, plus if you're a small contributor, if you give them, like I remember one year, I think we gave them $5,000 during COVID.
Yeah.
And they hardly know your name, you know. Like I found that same with Project Share. You give them some, they don't even know who you are, and right after you give them a donation, they send you an email to ask for more money, and then you send them back an email. We just gave you X amount of money. And then like 2 months later, you get sorry about that, you know. So you get lost. So many contributors. So anyway, 1/3 of police budget is going. What was that one?
Oh, sorry. 1/3 of police budget is going to addiction, mental health issues. We need something done.
Oh yeah, like I go past a couple times a week. I go past that Summer Street one. Yesterday there was another ambulance there, more police, etc., etc.
I've not gone past Summer Street without seeing a ruckus out there almost every time, and that used to be a sane, calm part of town. Not anymore.
No. What was that one Gary posted?
Gary?
Yeah.
So go out and vote October 26th, please. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Good one, Gary.
100%. Right?
Look, there's people working hard, and Paul and people that he knows are always pushing people to get out there to vote. That's the one time that you can use your mandate, one time to influence it, the situation. So do get out and vote. We had a 29% turnout last time, which was just terrible. Even in the last provincial election, we had nobody coming out to vote. That's a sad thing.
It is very sad.
Even if you don't like the results, even if you, I know a lot of people feel it doesn't really, and nothing changes. So why am I out here to vote? Well, nothing will change if you don't vote.
If you don't vote, nothing will change. Yeah. And when it comes to the municipal election, listen to what the candidates have got to say. Well, naturally, in any election, listen to what the candidates have got to say. Look at, assess it in relation to how what the things you believe in, and try to mesh it together.
Oh, Canadians are so gullible.
Don't be gullible.
Yes. City, yeah. I don't know. It's too much world become. Yeah, unfortunately. But in this article, just to finish off this article, that the community center is going to include Paston. So I hope that it does, and I hope they find the feasibility. The only thing, though, that you get a lot of kids going to the community center, and those kids that are going into Paston, will the other kids make fun of them? Will the kids that have mental health issues want everybody in the world to know that you have mental health issues? You know, so if you take your kid to Paston's, only the other people there see them, right? But if you go to a community center, the whole community sees, oh, there's Fred Smith, that is kid going into Paston's again. Oh, he must have mental health issues. The kid then becomes stigmatized.
That's what that's immediate thing that I thought, actually, Dave. Yeah. So that was the first concern that I thought of. Okay. So LeBlanc is looking, says talks are ongoing, meeting Greer as the 50% tariff date nears. We've already talked about that as being August 19th, so next Wednesday. So Canadian US Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc met with US Trade Representative Jameson Greer in Washington yesterday as those trade talks continue. And they're looking for a new round of talks.
Well, the three biggest lies: the check is in the mail, we won the war in Iran, and the trade deal is imminent with the United States. We hear these things all the time, don't we? We've heard it over and over again. Oh, we're getting closer to a trade deal. Oh, we're getting closer to a trade. It's just like the Iran war. Oh, we won the Iran war. We won the Iran war, but they're still throwing missiles at one another, and the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. And what do we hear from our government all the time? Oh, we're near a deal. We got a deal. We're near a deal, et cetera, et cetera. No, you're not. I mean, I don't think there's going to be any deal by August 19th. You?
I'm not in the least bit optimistic, to be quite honest. No.
No, it's just going to be another. They're trying to stave off this like 96-year-old law that's never been used, that the Trump administration found in the archive somewhere, and say, okay, now we can use this to boost tariffs. If Canada had time, they could challenge it in the Supreme Court, just like the small businesses did with the original tariffs that Trump had. The small businesses, together with a few other companies, challenged the tariff bills that he had, and of course, the money had to all be paid back because it was an illegal tariff. And the small businesses were the ones that were affected so badly by the tariffs. They're the ones that took the administration to court and won.
But of course, you can't take a threat to court. You've got to you can't take any court action until the tariffs are put in place. So you can't have you can't have the Canada versus USA court case until the tariffs are put in place.
Well, that's the problem. See, the tariffs will have done a great deal of harm by the time it goes through the court system.
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
know? And of course, the administration knows that. It's not new. Bush did that to our steel industry. When the U.S. steel industry was tanking, Bush came up and said, "Oh well, we're not playing fair in the free trade rules. We're not playing fair, and so put a moratorium on Canadian steel." And then it had to go through the courts, and we won every time, but it took 4 years to conclude it. We had 4 years of decreased sales to the United States, but we won the case, and we were able to produce steel and sell it in the States as we did before. But Bush knew, in order to slow down the decline of the U.S. steel industry, you had to come up with something. So they come up with this phony thing. Well, that's the same thing every administration does. They come up with something. I don't know. Like I said, the check is in the mail. We won the war in Iran, and the deal is imminent.
Yeah.
There's going to be no deal. I very, very like Trump is under pressure from the big unions. In the back rooms, apparently, the auto industry is telling them, "Look, you're really messing things up here for us." But they're not going to come out front and say that. The builders in the United States who want Canadian lumber are saying the same things. People that use nickel and aluminum are saying the same thing. So I don't know what kind of internal pressures they have. I don't know, but I don't think there's going to be a deal imminent. Now he may make a deal closer to the midterms, just as a feather in his cap. You might want to make things look good, but remember, many of the Republicans are against this. Are against the tariffs. They want the free trade deal to continue.
Yeah.
We found that out in in a Republican-owned Senate and Congress both had ceremonial type bills, votes on the free trade deal with Canada and Mexico, because most of the different states rely on them a lot. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but this administration, I mean, they still want to charge people. They charge what, 6 or 7 people for vandalism on that reflecting pond, right? That was a big debacle, and but they're still trying it. So you don't know what's going to happen in this administration. And if you do have a deal, can you trust it? Right? Most countries now are very, very leery about you having a deal with the U.S. They know they're going to have one, but they don't know if it's going to hold. You sign it, and if you have another whim, if Doug Ford puts another ad in the paper, we're going to get another big fat tariff, even though we may have signed a deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big problem that we've had right now, because we've now been a year and a half with this current government, and it doesn't seem to be we've kind of had this up and down tariff thing going on the whole time. And even though we've been close to a deal for quite some time, it gets stabbed in the back every single time.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's frustrating, but do remember that's supposed to be part of the deal making process that Trump uses. Come on hard, yeah. Bully. The same kind of thing that he uses in real estate, I suppose. You find the most vulnerable and just hit it. They don't think. He thinks in zero-sum games. We're talking about a fair deal. It's good for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure we'll find out, though, because we have American farmers that need stuff from us. We need, we're going to have a deal sooner or later. But anyway, one more manufacturer. Only Trump is bringing it back. He's not bringing it back. He's not bringing manufacturing back. Not to any degree. Biden brought more manufacturing back during his administration. He focused on that. Trump's administration hasn't brought a whole lot in that isn't already in the books since the Biden time. If you really look at it, there's not a whole lot of manufacturing coming back to the States.
No.
The job numbers were bad. Look, Besant said that this quarter that we're in now,
And Mike says the US have lost jobs in July.
Yeah, well, they did. And Howard Lutnick said that this quarter would be 6% increase, 6%. Besant said it would be 4%. It was 1.5%. Right? And they were expecting, I don't know, creation of X amount of jobs. Well, they got a fraction of that. Their manufacturing is not, they have a vast array of different things. They're doing better than we are in manufacturing, but their manufacturing has not increased that much.
Yeah.
They have their trade imbalance is worse than it was when Trump got in. These tariffs are supposed to help the trade imbalance, but the trade imbalance has gone up, particularly with China. Mm-hmm. The number one cheater in world trade is China, and the U.S. has lost ground again against China. If you're going to direct your tariffs, that's where to direct it.
Yeah.
But they're not retrieving any industry that they lost to China. They're not retrieving any industry they lost anywhere. This business they're all coming back home to start here. No, they're not. They haven't made up a whole lot yet. That's just rubbish. That's Fox News talking. They'll take one, like for instance, they got an aluminum smelter. right? So I remember watching this on Fox. Oh, a brand new aluminum smelter, and it's expanded, and there you go. That's because of Trump's tariffs. They still don't produce nearly as much aluminum they need. They only produce 1/6 of the aluminum they need, and there is no plans for having a bigger smelter. And the reason is they don't have the electrical power for it.
Yeah.
You know, and what electrical power they do have, they want to direct towards AI data centers, which was fueling the stock market at this particular time. So I don't think Trump's brought in a whole lot of extra manufacturing at all.
Yeah, and the thing is, as Randy West says, China never cheated. Free trade was handed over to China. Hand over to China the opportunity and the know-how. Yeah, exactly.
I think they have cheated. Think they have cheated by not allowing their currency to float. I think they have cheated by having the government come in and help certain companies manufacture things at a much cheaper rate. The old story of a small industry, let's say a small industry, they can make a certain thing, and they take their production over to China. China makes it for 5 years, then makes their own copy of it and pushes you out of business.
All right, we got to end it at this point, Dave.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm gonna talk about Gaza again. Here we go. I will always speak of Gaza because it's a nightmare that doesn't seem to end. Right now, we find that the Israeli government, because of more and more attention on Israel, you have more and more journalists going to the West Bank, and they can't get into Gaza. The Israelis will not let them in Gaza because they don't want them to see what's there. So international journalists are not allowed into Gaza, but they do go into the West Bank, and they found abuse after abuse after abuse. And the Israeli government is saying, oh, well, that's just a handful of bad actors. It is not. It's not a handful of bad actors. He himself has those guys in his government, Smotrich and Shmuley and Ben-Gvir. They are terrible people. Ben-Gvir, is it Ben-Gvir? He said he wants to kill all the Palestinians. There's another spokesman said that one Israeli life is worth 10 million Palestinian lives, that kind of thing. So it's getting out of control.
Yeah.
The Israeli government can't control it. They don't want to control it. But we still give them weapons. And what do they say when we give them a weapon? Oh, well, the Hamas is using the children as human shields. That's why we bomb all the kids, is because we got to get at that bad guy behind them. So we'll kill the kids to get at the bad guy. Yeah, that sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah, they're using them as human shields, so it's their problem. Okay, we know that apartment's full of people and there's one bad guy, and we'll kill everybody in the apartment to get that bad guy. You know, that's their fault. They're using those people for human shields, and yet they can target somebody within inches anywhere else in the world, and they've proved it.
Yeah. All right.
Without further ado, I bid you adieu.